Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
So has this ever happened to you? You look at the clock and it says 11:11. And we've often heard that you should make a wish when you see that. Or you see the numbers 222, 333, maybe it's 321. Repeating numbers in sequences. What does this all mean? We're going to ask an expert that today. She is an expert by way of Egyptian numerology, and we've learned a lot so far. We're going to dig into this one. I'm excited to learn more about this. Sara Bachmeier is back with us. Welcome back, Sara. How are you doing?
Great. Thanks, Steve. I'm doing great. This is a great topic. So I get a lot of questions about repeating number sequences.
Yeah, even
So,
before we dig into this, I just want to say congratulations. You shared before we jumped in here that your granddaughter was born yesterday.
yes.
Congrats. Wow.
Yes, Willow.
Oh, whoa,
She came a
what a
couple
pretty
weeks
name.
early, so it was quite a Christmas surprise. She wasn't supposed to be born until January 1st. So,
How wonderful. Now, the first thing I think of coming from your line of work, and you've done my life path number based on my date of birth and also my name. Have you already done that for Willow? You figured
of
that out?
course,
Of course.
before she was born, when I found out my daughter was in labor and that it probably wasn't going to be um, that it was going to be that day and not carried on to the next. Although I did do both. She's actually life path number 3, the same as my daughter. So that's going to be really interesting.
Interesting. Interesting. And if it was off by a day, in terms of her birth, that would make a huge difference, right?
It
Okay.
would.
Hmm.
Yeah, it definitely would. So it's always interesting to see what the soul chooses to be born with. Even though, she wasn't supposed to be born for another couple of weeks, it's almost when children are born early or even late, it makes me, I think that they're waiting to be born within a certain energy on our planet. So
Hmm.
I always like to investigate that, what energy and what she's going to bring to the world and
Wow.
what the world has in store for her.
Wow. Interesting in that she was going to be born, or at least the due date was January 1st, but the way you put it, she chose to be born yesterday. So is that really the free will? Like we choose when to be born?
Absolutely.
Wow.
I believe that. I believe we choose everything. We choose our name, the day we're born, the time we're born, the parents that we choose to be born into, what religion, um, traditions, even health uh, challenges um, are
Hmm.
all predetermined. So
Wow. Hmm.
we've kind of touched a little bit on that in the previous
Yep.
podcasts.
Gives us lots to think about. Always thought about this when the clock does blink 11:11. I know it's a positive thing. I do make a little wish because I hear you're supposed to do that. But what do the number sequences mean, or repeating numbers? What do they mean?
Well, first, just back up just a little bit. We seem to start noticing repeating numbers. Not everybody notices them, but we tend to start noticing repeating numbers when we start kind of a spiritual awakening. Like, can you remember the time that you started seeing numbers and feeling like, oh, that's kind of odd. I just looked at the clock and it's 1111 and or 222 and then it keeps happening. Or sometimes there's a specific number sequence that happens for people over a long period of time. Um, like 222 and 333. So do you remember when you first started seeing repeating number sequences? When they started like piquing your curiosity?
Hmm. It was a long time ago with the 1111, but numbers in general within the last 2 years have really peaked for me. In terms of adding them up, I think we've talked before. 11 is an impactful number for me. Shows up all the time, and you add the numbers up. I don't know why, but it shows up for me all the time. And I'm not looking for it, but it's there. I can't deny that the 11, when there's many times numbers presented to me right down to my address, add up to 11. But it's been years. I mean, the 1111 thing, I have a friend that has a company and it's called 333. I never asked her why, but I know that she's somewhat spiritual. So,
So yeah, it holds a specific significance to her. The well, it's kind of interesting because when we're growing up, we use numbers to count for counting purposes. So when does that change to spirit messages? It's when we're able to look
mm,
into start understanding the energy of things, not just numbers, but animals, plants, our own energy. When we start opening up and start thinking a little bit more about significant meanings beyond the physical world, and that's kind of what we call a portal or a doorway where spirit catches on and starts using numbers as communication.
mm,
So there's different types of repeating numbers. There's the single digit numbers that we see, like 222, 333, 444. And then we have mirror numbers, which are numbers that mirror themselves, like 12, 12, 14, 14, 21, 21. And then there's reversed numbers, which
mm,
is 12, 21, 14, 41. They kind of mirror themselves, so they're called mirror numbers. And then there's ascending numbers when you wake up in the middle of the night and it's 1, 2, 3 or 3, 2, 4.
mm,
And then there's descending numbers where it goes 4, 3, 2, and you start noticing that they're descending. So all of these have specific meanings to them. Then we have the angel numbers, which always comes in the form of threes, and the ascension numbers, which come four and more numbers together, like 1, 1, 1, 1, 2, 2, 2, 2. Um, and those are ascension numbers we call. So the one that's calling to you is more like what would you say? More like the angel number or the ascension number when you see the 1, 1, 1, 1. And then there's master numbers, like which you tend to see the 11 and or 22, 33, 44, 55. Uh,
I guess there are
so
angel numbers, but I will share this with you. I just thought of this, and I don't know why it didn't resonate with me. Um, my office here, my company, my studio is located at 4400. So,
nice.
and this is suite 204. I don't know if there's anything there, but it's 4400. So there's double repeating numbers. Would the zeros be repeating?
Yeah, zeros can be repeating.
Wow.
Um, yeah, I mean, people don't usually talk about the zeros.
Right?
Repeating, sometimes don't even think that they're numbers, but in Egyptian numerology, they are numbers, and they're actually very important numbers. Um, they're
Hmm.
really, it's the symbol of all possibilities. So it's either a void or all possibilities. And a void can mean that you're creating a void so that you can bring in opportunities. So whether you look at it as empty or full,
Mm.
there's always a meaning to that also. But basically it's called angel numbers because it's believed that the angels use the numbers to communicate with us.
Hmm.
And just the fact that angel numbers come in threes, it's called angel numbers because of the Trinity involved, the body, mind, and spirit, um, which the number three represents.
Hmm.
So it's all about communication, and there's certain ways that you can interpret all of these numbers. I think we talked about this before. You can take, like, let's just say 222. You can take the number two
Hmm.
and find out what that represents for you, or you could add them up and look up the number six, which could be significant to you. Um,
Well, let me ask you this based on what I just said, because now I started already adding, now I got eight. I'm at 4,400. Um, what's eight? And again, this is business connected. So I guess maybe look at it through that lens. Tell me eight is very successful.
well, yeah, it's connected to abundance and prosperity, financial well-being, resourcefulness.
All right.
It's also about balance, balancing the earthly realm with the spiritual realm. Um, the 44 makes it, when you see numbers doubled or tripled, it means that it's more powerful. The energy behind it is more powerful. The more numbers you have behind it, 44 or 444 or four fours, um, signifies just how powerful it's going to be in your life. That's the way I interpret it anyway.
Wow. Okay. Well, that makes me feel better.
Yeah. Yeah,
Hmm.
it's a very good number for business. And, it's like the equalizer. It's also, the number eight's the infinity symbol, turned on its side. So the thing with the number eight, though, is that, I mean, it has the potential for all those things, prosperity and abundance and balance. But you also have to do a little work in order to align with that energy. And that's kind of the message that you're getting with having that as your address. It's asking you to align with the energy. And when you do, then you're more apt to be abundant and bring in prosperity. But if you block it for one reason or another, um, with your energy, then nothing's going to happen. It could actually be detrimental in a way where it backfires on you.
How now I have some concern. How do you mean that?
Well, when you're under the influence of those powerful numbers, it first of all, you wouldn't have been attracted to that powerful number unless there was something about you that you were in alignment with. Either that was your energy at the moment that you got this job, or it's while you're doing your work, you are going to be asked to be in alignment with, well, I think we number eight's the integrity number. So to be in an integrity with your communication, which is what you do, um, you communicate with people, and being really clear, being honest. And if you're not any of those, then it will challenge you to step up. So you would, if you have the opportunity to align with being in integrity with your communication, with balancing the earth and your spiritual life, everything's going to go good. But if you decide not to, or you have a problem that's isolated, that's really bothering you, and you can't get over it, then you'll either switch jobs. That job will no longer be available to you because you're no longer in alignment with the energy, especially with addresses, because you're there and you spend a lot of your time there, and it's part of your purpose. Is
Yeah.
is that right?
Oh,
So
totally.
if you're not in alignment, you wouldn't be there if you weren't in alignment or on your way to being in alignment with that energy. So that's the message that the universe is sending you with having that address, is being in integrity. And from what I know about you, that you are and you strive to be. And that is just something and somebody who you already are. So it wouldn't surprise me that you would have such a powerful address. But just know that if you get out of alignment with negative energy for a long period of time, then that space is not going to work for you.
You know,
It
funny
just,
you should say that. And
location.
thank you for everything you said so far. I truly appreciate it. And I'm very humble, but I agree. And I think there's a reason why I found this space. I picked it. I could have picked a bunch of other ones. We're going to get back to the sequences in a minute, but Mitch from Port Jervis, New York, checks in and says, my company is located at 1031. I've had some struggles with my business and wonder if there's a connection with the address. Fascinating topic today. What can you tell me?
Oh, I'm glad you called. So it adds up to the number five. And five's a hard, and this is his business, right?
Correct.
This is where he works. Okay.
Hmm.
Um, it's a movement energy. Number five's movement. It's You never stay in one place for very long. It's all about change and adventure and freedom. And so when you're under the influence of the number five, it wouldn't be hard to predict that you're going to be going through a lot of changes. And people that have like the number five in as their life path, um, are geared more to like divorce and always switching jobs. But when it's a location, it's going to ask that you are always changing. It's a busy number, it's a social number. There's nothing stable about the number five.
Really?
So
Wow.
yeah,
Okay.
it's a great number if you travel, if your occupation's traveling, if it has to do with different cultures, uh, if it's a social business where you have customers and but there's always going to be a lot of change around what you
Wow.
do.
And that would
So if
correlate just to Mitch's address. Um, even if it maybe his life path number is not a five, but something else, but that is generally what somebody could experience if
at that address, at that
wow.
address, it's always going to be change. And if you, like I said, if you have an occupation like a travel agent or financial advisor where things are always changing on a daily basis, then I mean that's a great number to have. But if
Hmm.
as far as stability and having something tangible for a long period of time, and you want it to stay the same for a long period of time, even we're looking at 6 months to a year, it's probably not going to happen at a number five address. And I don't know if that makes any sense to him.
Hmm.
Um,
It's
I
something
it,
to consider based on what he said, his, and I'm just thinking back.
experiencing a lot of change, and that could be why.
I didn't realize this is crazy. I want to I don't want to stop. I want to keep going. I just realized that for a major part of my career and in the radio side, okay, um, had lots of successes here and there, moving like that. The address was 555. I just remembered that. You can't make that up. And
No,
and
you can't make that out.
I left that company a number of years ago after an amazing run, and the best part of the run was in that particular building. They moved twice, actually three times, but it was there, and it was 555.
How long did you stay there?
In total, 26 years. In that building, probably for I would say 8 years.
And what kind of job did you have?
That was radio. Did a morning show.
And so you had somebody new coming in all the time, or was it
Yes,
a busy, was it a
yes,
really busy atmosphere?
yes. It was.
It's well then that's I mean having the triple fives could be really powerful, but when you add them up, it's the number six. So number
Hmm.
six is about balance.
Hmm.
Um,
But you bring up an interesting point here, and then we'll pivot. It's not about me, but just
sure.
to illustrate, when it was in another building, it was very stable. In this building, not a bad thing, but management turned over a lot more than it ever did in the other building, and that was decades. And I was in the other building. Um, Very stable run there. In this one, there was changes, going here, going there, and especially toward the end. Um, I don't know if that plays into the number five and what we just said with Mitch.
Yeah, that would be. I was wondering where the changes were coming from when you have the 555. So it would have been
Hmm,
in management, which, I mean, change isn't always a bad thing. It depends
sure,
on if it's a positive change. I mean, I don't like saying things are negative and positive because everything can be looked at and used to your advantage depending
true,
on your perspective. But
true.
um, I guess whoever's there with the perspective is, could be either good or bad. Good,
So,
good or bad change.
so
But it sounds like,
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
oh, I was just say it sounds like that the management didn't stay long enough to really. I mean, I was it like the management changing? Was it always evolving, or did it not work, or why was it
It it
changing so much?
it wasn't a negative change. There was one that, for me, it was fine. Others didn't like the particular manager. Um, but there was, the point I made here is that when it was at another address, it never changed. Toward the end, a little bit here and there. In this building, there was more. I got to ask this question. Got to ask this question, Sarah.
Okay.
We talk about repeating numbers, the 222, the 333. What about the 666?
Oh, I love that. I love the number 666.
See, I stay away from it.
I know, and it has all these like
demonic
I
connotations, I guess.
know, and I think I talked about this before that numbers that are really powerful, like the number 13, um, well, always seems to have like a negative story behind it. And what how I see
Hmm.
this is that the more powerful the number is, the more love we say that, the 666 is an angel number. So if we believe in angels, then I mean, kind of have to believe that there's dark energy too. So I believe around the 666 that dark energy workers didn't knew how powerful the 666 was, and so they created a bad rap for it to keep people away from it, from using it in as a powerful number. Does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah, and then, I never thought of it that way. That 666 could be perceived to be an angel number, and I don't know how. I know it from movies, how it's not the best number. Same thing with 13. I have to admit. I stay away from that number as well. Even if I'm buying something and it comes out to 666, I'll add, pack of gum.
So you don't feel blessed when you when you come upon. So
I
you should
don't.
feel blessed,
Yeah.
really. It represents a balance between the earth and the spiritual realms.
Wow.
It Now it points to developing your intuitive gifts, and is connected to clairvoyance and our extrasensory capabilities, hence the sixth sense. Um, in Egyptian numerology, the number 6 is called the lighthouse. When connected to source, um, it's it's inviting you to raise your energy and channel your intuition into the higher realms. And it's a so that you can create a sacred bond with the angelic realm.
Hmm.
So 666 is actually okay, six, it adds up to the number 9, right? I'm asking you,
Yeah.
which is the number 9 is an integrity number, and it's a very evolved number. So there's nothing about 666 really, other than what you've heard or seen in the movies, that would ever point to it being
Hmm.
a not so good number or energy. It's the 6 is about romance, it's about balance, it's about family, friends, communication, and it's very powerful when it's tripled.
Wow.
It's the bond between heaven and earth. So can you see
I get
why
it.
the dark forces wouldn't want you to use this?
I get it, and I have to refocus my mind. I mean, I have a somebody I work with, and I send him. I compensate him. We work together, and he lives at 666 insert number
Oh,
street. So I will tell you, every time I write that down on the envelope, I'm like, uh, but
blessing
anyway,
it.
yes, it's uncomfortable. We're out of time.
I know.
It's just fascinating to talk about this, and I think it's one of those. I know it's one of those things that comes up for a lot of us, and then we wonder, about it and what it all means. If somebody really wants to unpack the numbers and find the deeper meaning, what's your website, Sarah?
It's www.egyptiannumerology.org.
And I
And
know
yeah, my services, and I have some information about Egyptian numerology on there
it's
in my
so.
book.
Yes, you have books, you have all the insight. I find it fascinating. I really do. And once you start paying attention, a lot of these things do come clear, like it did for me a couple of years ago. And then you just crystallized it. Since we met and started talking, it has been fantastic doing these podcasts with you, and I've learned a lot, and I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. It was nice meeting you too, and having a chance to share.
Same. And happy holidays to your family, and congratulations on your granddaughter once again.
Thank you. You have a good Christmas or holiday, whatever you choose, and a new year.
May the numbers be with us.
There you
In
go.
some regard. All right, we'll talk soon. We'll be right back.
Okay.
Bye.
Are you looking for even more of the podcasts and hosts that you love? The Podcast Business News Network is proud to announce that you now have even more ways to listen live. Check out the MyTuner Radio, online radio box, and Simple Radio apps on iOS and Android, or find us online. Search for Business News Network on mytuner-radio.com, or search Podcast Business News Network on streama.com and onlineradiobox.com/US. Take your podcast on the go and don't miss a minute of the action.
Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
For nearly 2,000 severely injured veterans, everyday life has become filled with barriers.
Day-to-day simple tasks can become pretty daunting.
I have to carry my chair up 2 flights of steps or have somebody do it for me.
What scares me the most is just the falling.
When I'm struggling with my house, I think, to have that one great barrier just knocked down, it's crucial.
Home for Our Troops is a wonderful nonprofit that builds a
mortgage-free, fully adaptive, handicap-accessible house.
And there's no catch.
It'll be our very first home that we've ever owned.
This is a game changer.
This is where your life begins again.
We need you to join us in completing this important mission. Please visit hfotusa.org and help build homes and rebuild lives.
Because of you, everything's going to be okay.